Hi everybody, I'm Pauluna, and in this video I want to show you how to make a basic create a sim mesh edit for The Sims 4. This video is especially for beginners, as I will show every step from start to finish, and I will also explain all the tools that you need to have to create Sims 4 CC. I put a link in the description so you can download all the tools. First, we start in The Sims 4 Studio. If you've never opened it before, please put your creator name in this box. We have 4 options here on the left side. We can make animations, build stuff, objects or build by, and cast items. Because I only make cast stuff, I will also focus my tutorials on the cast part. The only other part I will show right now is this button, the My Projects button. If you click on it, it will open your Explorer and you can open your package files from there. Or they are listed here if you worked already on something. You can directly open your last project. So what do we see here? We have 4 options for create a sim. We have the override. This is for when you want to make an override of an existing object in game. We have the add cast part swatch. This is when you want to add more swatches to an object. If you want a standalone, you click create cast standalone. This will create a recolor of a mesh, but it is important that the mesh is also in your mod folder. And if you want to create an independent mesh, you have to click create 3D mesh. This is what I usually do, so like almost all the time. And this is also what we will do now. So click create 3D mesh and then click on cast. This will open your catalog and you will see every item that you have in your game. So if you have some expansion packs, you will also see them here. And if you don't have them, they will not be shown. So in this tutorial, we want to create a basic mesh edit of this white toddler top. So please select this shirt. You have here on top some different filters that you can pick, and then you may find this white toddler shirt. When you found it, please select it and click Next. This will open up your Explorer. Now you have to save your package file that you will now create, and I always recommend to put it into your mods folder so that you don't have to put it later. So if you start the game, you already can see the item you worked on, so it will be there. I will call my package toddler top, and I made a subfolder in my mods folder called CC lesson, and this is where I will save it. Now we are in the studio. Like you can see here, we have the studio tab and the warehouse tab. The warehouse tab is something more advanced, and we won't speak about it in this tutorial. So let's focus on the studio. What do we see here? On the left, we see our toddler model with our shirt that we picked. And that's basically it. You can move around by pressing the middle mouse button. And you can turn around with the right mouse button. On the right side, we see at the top our swatches. Right now, we only have one swatch, but we can add some more if we'd like to. We can change the colors of the swatches. Like if I want to add a blue shirt, I pick the color blue so that people know what they are looking for in Create a Sim. We can also make more colors into one swatch. So maybe you make a striped shirt and it has more than one color. You can also have this. I will now remove my swatches and stay with my basic white one. We have also the opportunity to import custom swatches, but I never do that. It's like when you want to add a pattern or something. I don't know if it's necessary, like it is really small in game. So yeah, that's on you. Right next to it, we have the thumbnail. So this is the place where you can import your own thumbnails of your items if you want to, but if you leave it blank, it will create automatic ones in game. Just a little tip from me. If you make custom thumbnails, always upload them, so import them, into the female and the male section. At the bottom, we have the texture part. Here we have different kinds of textures, and I will tell you what they do. We have the diffuse, that is the texture you can see on our model right now, this white shirt texture. Then we have the shadow. This is this part that is underneath our shirt to make it look like it is real. So there will be shadow underneath the sleeves, underneath the top, and like here. Next, we have the specular. For our tutorial, we don't need it in particular. Like there was an update in the Sims 4 Studio where you can just click make blank and it will automatically generate a perfect specular map for you. So for your texture. You may notice it has the same outline as our diffuse texture. So that's basically it. It's a black background with this white filling. So what a specular actually is about, if you want to use it, it can make special effects on your texture. Like you will never see it in Sims 4 Studio, it is only visible in game. So I may blend in some videos from my stuff where I used specular maps. So you can make some glitter effect, or if you have some leather texture or latex or something that has a little shine, you can control it with a specular map. Next, we have the normal map, and this is basically a cover that covers our object, and it will make it look like it has more dimensions in game. So our mesh is flat. It's really even, and this normal map can make it look like it has some bumps due to lighting and such. I'm not a professional, so I don't know the exact science behind that, but I always make it because I want my CC to be completely finished. And last but not least, we have the emission. This is something I never used before, but I know that it is for making your texture glow. Like there is a bracelet in Get Together, I think, and it glows. And if you add emission to your object, it will make this part glow. Our next tab is the meshes tab. Here we see a level of detail. Currently, it is selected LOD 0. And we also have LOD 1, 2, and 3. If I click on LOD 3, you may notice that our model now looks really edgy and ugly. Like it's not that detailed anymore. And if I click LOD 2, it will get better, and 1 again better, and LOD 0 is the best. So what does this mean? Like when you're in game and you're relatively close to your character, it will show you LOD 0. But if you zoom far away, the game will make it first into LOD 1, then 2, then 3, because you can't see it, and it don't has to be so high quality, because otherwise your PC will blow up. I guess it's how it works. I will also show you how to make LOD 1, 2, and 3, but we will always start to work with LOD 0. Something that is also important for the performance of your game are the vertex and polygons. So like this is like some normal numbers, but if you have alpha CC, this CC type has like a lot of more vertex and polygons, means it is more detailed, like it was modeled very detailed, but this means the size file is bigger and the vertex and polygons are also like a lot more. And this is why your game may lag a little bit more if you have a lot of alpha CC. So yeah, also I don't know like the science behind that, but I always keep my vertex and polygons around the numbers that EA uses. So I never go above 5,000. I mean, I make stuff for toddlers and they are smaller than adults. I guess if you're making stuff for adults, especially dresses that are very long, very big, there will be more vertex and polygons. Like this is just a basic shirt. Yeah, so always keep that in mind when you make CC, that you don't go over the top, because the more CC you have of this kind with a lot of vertex and polygons, it may crash your game. Next, we have the categories tab. And this is where you can choose the tags of your object. You can decide which age group it is for, which color it has, which gender, which occult, and so on. Like you can choose everything. I know my Sims Studio shows it in German. I guess it has to do with the game language. So when you open your Sims 4 Studio, you will see the words in your own language. The last tab is the tuning tab. This is very new and I don't know what it does. I never used it and I don't know if I have to use it. If I figure out what it does, I can make a separate video of it, of course. Now that we know what's going on here in Sims 4 Studio, we can slowly start to go to the next tool that we need. But first, we have to prepare ourselves because we need some different files that we have to work with. First, I'd like to show you how I organize my CC. And I always make a separate folder for each item. And in this folder, there are subfolders. I have the normal map folder, the shadow map folder, the specular folder, and the texture folder. That's just for me, because I like my things organized. And how you do it, it's up to you. Let's export the files that we need. First, we need the diffuse texture. I will export it in my folder, in my texture folder, and I call it shirt. Then we need the shadow texture. I export it into my shadow folder and I call it shirt. Then we have to export the mesh. Important, it has to be LOD 0. Export this mesh, and this I put in the main folder, and I call it mesh. That's how I know it is my base mesh. So now we're finished with Sims 4 Studio for the beginning, and now we're switching to Blender. Just double click on your blend file and it will open the tool. We start with some basic control options because so many people seem very overwhelmed when they open Blender because there is a lot to do, a lot to see, and I feel you. So please don't give up, keep working on it, keep trying, and I hope this tutorial will help you. You can click with your left mouse button and nothing will happen, just this select tool. You can click with the right mouse button and it will open a menu, but we can still don't move. You may already tried to scroll. See, we can get nearer, far away, but we still can't move up and down. And how do we do that? We click the Shift button and the middle mouse button, like the scroll wheel, and then we hold it, Shift and mouse scroller, and then you can move around. The more experience you have, the easier it gets, so just try it. We can also, if we press our middle mouse button, we can rotate a window or our model. So in every direction. And if you incorporate everything I just said, like the zooming, the moving, and the rotating, you will have a great time on Blender. It may just take some time, but I think you all can do it. If you don't have this view, like you need this middle window, this right part, and this left window. If you don't have the left window, I will tell you why. Maybe it will look like this for you. You have to go into this corner until there is a cross. Then you click and you move it to the right. And then you have two toddlers. Now we have to change this window to our UV editor. You click on the bottom here. There's like a grid. And then you click UV editor. And this is our UV editor. So now I will tell you some more control options. When you click on your object, like you see, only this part is selected. The model you can't select. It's like static, it's there. You can't do anything with it because we only exported a mesh for the top part of a toddler. With the R key, we can rotate our object. If you click the right mouse button, you can go back. Then we have the S key. With the S, you can size it up and down. And with the right mouse button, you go back. Then we have the G key. G for grab. And you can grab it and move it around. And again, right mouse click to go back. So we have to remember we have R for rotate, S for size, and G for grab. I guess these are the keys you will use the most, especially the G, the grab. These were some basic controls, and I hope that some more people now understand how to move around in Blender. I guess that's where some people already fail, and I hope this helps a lot. Our object is selected, and you see that it is also selected here on the right side. This is our mesh. Like, I will call it our mesh part. Because in this example, our mesh only has one mesh part. But there are also meshes in the Sims 4 that have more than one mesh part. Like, I've seen some meshes with like up to 10 mesh parts, I guess. I don't know the exact reason why it is done like that, but yeah, they do it. I know that when you make pants and they interact with shoes, then you have to have separate mesh parts. This I will make another separate tutorial for, but it's always the best to only have one mesh part. And also very important, if you go into the Scene tab and you installed everything correctly, you will have this option, the Sims 4 Studio Mesh Tool. And there you will see a cut number. And it has to be 0, 0, 0, 0. So 4 times 0. Every time you have one mesh part, it always has to be 0, 0, 0, 0. Very important. So if you have another mesh part, it changes to 0001, the next will be 0002, and so on. But every time you have one mesh part, and that's like what most beginners will start with, it always has to be 0000. Like, please don't forget that. By the way, we also have the rig imported as we started Blender. And if we make it visible with the eye icon, you will see that this is basically the skeleton of our model. We can also click on this dot, and if we press R for rotate, you see how the toddler moves. Like, we can also click G, but this is kind of creepy, but it's possible. So this is what the rig is for, just so you know. I will make it invisible again. The other stuff here at the top is not necessary for us. It is like this, and it will stay like this. You don't have to change anything. So I click again on my mesh part, and now we want to modify it. What I plan for this tutorial is that we cut off the sleeves, and we put some new sleeves back on it. So we make a completely different top. What we have to do first is we have to go into the edit mode, because right now we can't do anything here because we're in object mode. So you can either click here on edit mode, or you press tab, and it will do this. You see, this is orange. This means it is selected. And this on the left side is not selected. So it's not in sync. And we want to have it in sync. So please click these two arrows on the bottom so they are in sync. It means, like, if I click here, it will also click here. If I select some things, they will also be selected here. So we always know where we are. If we want to go back to object mode, we also can press tab again. So this way we have a better overview of our model. But right now we want to edit it. So I will make this part bigger so we can take a look on it. We now have our toddler texture spread out like this. It looks a bit creepy, but this is how our texture is displayed. Maybe you can recognize that this is the top. So this is the front, and this is the back. And these are the arms. They're very obvious. We also have this part here at the bottom. If you want to know what this is, you can click on it, or you can select it. I will tell you how to select things. You can click the B key, and you will get this cross. And then with the left mouse click, you can draw a square. And then it will select everything that is in the square. So now we see, it's here, it's orange. So this is the bottom part. Then we have these stripes. There's also another method to select things, and this is the C button. You get a circle, and you can make it bigger if you scroll, and if you scroll into the other direction, it will get smaller. And if you click it, you can paint it to select things. Sometimes it's better to use the B key. Sometimes it may be better to use the C key. And sometimes maybe it's also better to click just one. And if you want to click another one, you hold Shift and then click on it. So now we have two things selected. If we want to figure out what this is, I will just select it really quick. And now we see, oh, this is the inner part of the sleeve, like on this side and on this side. Okay. Now we know what this stuff is. Just a quick info. I found this picture on the internet. You can Google Sims 4 UV map or something, and you will see what the different areas of the different objects are. Like, we have a top, so all the stuff is in the top part. Also this. So if this part was like here in the area of the bottom, every time you put on some pants on your toddler, the texture that is laying here will be displayed on this part, on this bottom part of your shirt. So that's why every clothing has its own area. Let's bring it back. And it's not just clothing, it's also like the stuff you put in your face, like makeup. Your hair goes here, head texture goes here, and so on. I guess it's self-explanatory. So our next step is to remove the arms and the sleeves. We have to select our arms and sleeves. I will use the B key. So I have selected it. Then we have to go with our mouse into this window. You don't have to click, just go with your mouse here. We press X. And you have to delete the vertex. Like this. So just so you know, if you have your mouse here and you click X, nothing will happen. So you have to be in this area. So we deleted our arms and sleeves, but there's still something left. And yeah, it's the inner part of the sleeves. We also have to delete them. So I will select them again, go with my mouse in here, and press X, and delete vertex. So just so you know, vertex are the little dots you can see here. Then we have edges, that is like the whole line, so all the lines you see here. And we have faces, that's like the triangle. This is a face. So just that you heard of it. Now we have a toddler with no arms. And this means we have to give him some new arms. I will go back to object mode with tab. And then I will leave him here and we will go back to Sims 4 Studio. I opened up a new Sims 4 Studio and now you can see that our project is saved right here. So if we directly want to go to it, we can just click it here like a shortcut. But we don't want to do that. We want to have some new sleeves. So I always call it, I go shopping for some new mesh parts. So, and this is the perfect opportunity to show you some life hacks. So I always click create 3D mesh. That's like intuitive for me. And then I click cast. We are in our catalog like we were before, but now we go full into cheat mode. And like in The Sims 4, we're all pro players, of course. Control, Shift, and C will open a cheat console. And there we type in cast-preview. And then we press OK. And this will open a new window, which is amazing because we have our catalog and we have our preview, like the studio. We have the whole studio here. And it's amazing if we want to export textures and if we export meshes without having to save a package somewhere. So what I want to do is I want to search for some new sleeves for my toddler. So I go back to the toddler category and there I will pick some new sleeves. You can pick something you want to, but if you want to follow my tutorial step by step, I would suggest to pick the same sleeves as I do. You can also go into the full body category because there are sleeves as well. I decided to pick these sleeves because they're also base game and I want everyone to have the same chances to follow this tutorial. So for this, we also have to export the same files that we exported for our base shirt. So the other shirt we had, our white t-shirt, I call base shirt, and this one I will call sleeves, as we will only use the sleeves here. So we have to export the diffuse. I will put it in my texture folder and call it sleeves. Then we have to export the shadow again. I will put it in my shadow folder and call it also sleeves. And then, last but not least, we have to export our mesh. Again, LOD 0. I will export the mesh in my main folder, and this time I will not call it mesh. I will call it sleeves. So I know that I want to use this mesh for the sleeves. So now you know also about the cast preview tool. It's really cool, especially if you want to take a look at different things. And I really recommend it. It's like a real lifesaver. But now back to Blender. Our toddler has still no sleeves, no arms. So we have to give it to him. We click on File, then on Append. And it's very important that you are in object mode right now, because if you are in edit mode, you can't click on Append. So take a look at the mode. It has to be object mode. So File, Append, and then you see your sleeves blend file. You double click it. There you have a bunch of folders. You have to open the object folder, and there you can see two mesh parts. They call SIMS for Studio Mesh 1 and Mesh 2. We select both of them like this. You click the first one, then with Shift you can click the other one, and then we click Append. Now you will see something like this. You see we have a new rig. We don't need it, so we delete it. When you are here in this area, you just click X and it will go away. Also, we have this bone shape. We don't need it as well, so we also delete it with X. By the way, you can also press right click and delete it this way. Now we see that we have three mesh parts. So I will make the mesh part we had at the beginning visible. Now you can see what's left, like our new top with the mesh, with the sleeves we want to have. And there's also this stripe right here. If you want to take a look at what it is, you can grab it, and now you see, okay, it makes like slide into our shirt. So what we have to do next, we will put these two parts together. That we do by clicking the first one, and then shift click the second one. You can do it either here or you can do it here. That's up to you. And then it is important that you go with your mouse in this area again and press Ctrl J. And now you see they are together. They connected. And you can't click on this part anymore. Like we can move it and it's one part. Now we have to do the same thing we did before with our base mesh, but like the other way around, because we want to have the sleeves and remove the rest of the top. So we click it, we press tab to go into edit mode. And then we delete the parts that we don't want to have. So make sure that the whole mesh is not selected anymore by pressing like somewhere else. And then we delete the parts that we don't need anymore. So I will do this with the V key and select this whole part. Make sure that you don't touch these parts. And then we go with our mouse in the middle, press X and delete vertex, like that. Still have some things left, the bow and this bottom part. We know that this random stuff is like always here at the bottom. Sometimes it's between the arms and you have to look for it. Like if you're not sure where it is, just click it and you will see where it's orange. So this is the bow. I will select it with the C key. So delete it. Then we have these two little parts here. These ones. I will delete it as well. And then the circle. So now we have our two arms left. And if we make our base mesh visible again, you can take a look at how your object will look like. But it's not finished yet because there are some holes in it and it's not connected. Like you see, there are the holes. So we have to fix that. What we will do first is we have to connect the both mesh parts again, like we did before with our sleeve mesh. So we click one and then we click the other, so both are orange. Then we go with our mouse into the middle window. We press Ctrl J and now they are one. Don't worry about the name, like it changed now to mesh 2. It's like not a problem. What is important is that the cut number is still 0000. So please take a look at that. It may change due to combining different mesh parts. So now if we go to edit mode again, we see that we have some interfering with our meshes. And this is what we don't want to have. So it's like, it always depends on what mesh you have put there. Like it is not always like that. Sometimes the sleeves will be perfect. Sometimes they are like this and overlap. Difficult to show it, but I guess you can see it like here. This is the top and this is the sleeve that goes over it. So what I would do in this situation, I would cut off some sleeve so I have a lot more space. And to delete the part of the sleeve, you have to select the line at the top and go like this. But now you see this looks very bad. Like it looks like there is something missing. And also like good, this time it looks okay in here. But I want to have a good UV layout. So I have to make some changes before I delete something. I go back, Ctrl Z, and then you see that there is a line here, but it stops right here and right here. So I some little tricks, and I pick this vertex and grab it with G, and then I bring it down. So I have another square. And I will do the same with this one as well. So I grab it and bring it down. And now I have to do it everywhere else, like on this side, it's also like that. I grab this one, I grab this one, and I grab this one. So, and now I can delete this part. That. and it doesn't look bad anymore. And I have to do the same as well on this side. So now that I cleaned my UV layout, it's time to put my sleeves onto my shirt. So it's kind of like sewing when you have two fabrics, a needle and some string, and you want to put it together. We will do this as well in Blender. And this is the part where it gets tricky. So take a close look. I will explain it as detailed as possible. So first, we see that our sleeves have their vertex, and we see that our base mesh has also some vertex, and they are almost like neighbors. And that's really good. So I always take a look at if my vertex have a neighbor. And in this case, it is like that. So that's perfect. Sometimes it may be a little different, and your sleeve may have some more vertex than your base mesh, and not everyone has a neighbor. But this is also something I will make a small tutorial for. So what we will do now is we will bring our sleeve to our top. So we click one vertex of our sleeve, and then we will click one vertex of our top with Shift. So both are selected now. Then we click the right mouse button. We go down here to merge vertex, and then we merge them at last. This means our first vertex that we picked will go to the last vertex we picked. Like if I go back and I click at first, now the vertex of our top went to the vertex of our sleeve. But this may look a little bit weird. So when I make sleeves, I always make that the sleeves go to the shirt. But that's something that you have to decide for your work. So what I can recommend is that if you decide to make everything from sleeve to top, please make it the whole time. And don't make it like on this side, I make everything from sleeve to top. And on this side, I make everything from top to sleeve. This will make it look like a little bit weird as it's not symmetrical. So I will explain it a few times more, and then I will speed it up a bit. So we see like it's a bit difficult with the view, so you always have to look how you can see it the best. So we have this one and we have this one. So I first click this and then shift click the other one, right click, merge vertex at last. Then we have this one. We click the other one, right click, merge vertex at last. And this I will do with all the vertex all around. So if you can't see a vertex because it's like deep inside the other mesh, you can click its neighbor, and then you can take a look at where it is. It's here. And then you can click the outer part or the inner part. And then I have to, like, you see, when I move it, the other vertex is there. So I parked my vertex that I moved right here because it's like completely fine. I can also put it here because if I click it here and then I click this, merge vertex at last, it will always go back to this partner. So that's for when you have problems to take a look at a vertex. We also have some problems with this part, like this one. You can't see the partner. It's like somewhere there. I will again look for the neighbor, like there, so deep in there that it wouldn't look good if I now match it with this one at last, as there will be this gap. So I bring it back. I will try to start at this one this time, and then click the inner part, and then I will bring it to it. So now it looks way better, and there's no gap in here. See, there's no gap. For the part under the arm, there's also some tricks. I usually do like meet at the middle. So if I have this, now I have to figure out what the partner is. So I pick a neighbor and so this is the one I need. And then I match it with this one at the center. And it's still something left. Like I really difficult to show actually. But we still have this one that has no partner. And we bring it just to them. Like I click this first, I go there, and then I merge at last. So it will also go there. And what are you? Oh, this one is also to go there. So we also bring him there at last. So now they're together. If you want to check if you have all vertices connected, you can select leave. You don't have to select all. And then you can grab it with G and move it around. So now I see that there's still a gap. So I have to connect this one with the other ones here. And I can't reach it. See? So I click on the circle on the bottom with the lines, and it will show you this option. And now I can click on this and I will have it selected. So I will go back. And then I can merge it at center. And if I select my arm now, move it around, everything seems fine. Like this is the inner part of the sleeve. If I select it too, it will also move. So this looks good. Now I have to do it on the other side as well. So my sleeves are connected and everything has no holes in it. So what I can do now, and this is something I really recommend you to do, select your whole UV layout, then click the right mouse button, merge vertex by distance. This will connect every vertex with its neighbor, with its direct neighbor, and the mesh will look much smoother. So if I go back, before I merge the vertex, you see that there is a line in here. You can also see it on the head, like our toddler has a line at the back of its body. And this also shows, like here, when I click this, you see, I move it and there is a hole in it. And it's in every mesh that you work with. There will always be this line at the back. So, and there's also the same with the shoulder. Like this will also always have a gap if you move it. Like this part, it's okay. Like you move it and there's no hole. but it's always in the back and on the shoulders. So again, I will select it, right click, merge vertex by distance. After that, we have to clean it up. As you may notice, this got dirtier. So I will go back. This is white. Now I merge the vertex. And now it's darker. That's because these parts are now together. And this makes the texture look a little dirtier. To clean this up, we have to select the whole bottom part, like the part where it gets dirty. And then we press the V button. See, you can now move this part and you separated it from the other. That's where I always do this, as well as these parts normally, but these sleeves seem fine, so it's okay. Now I will save my project. I hope you did it like regularly. What we will do now, we're done with Blender for now, so we will come back definitely, but for now we're done. We will now switch back to Sims 4 Studio. Now I'm back in Sims 4 Studio in the Meshes tab, and this is where I can now import the mesh we just edited. So it's my mesh.blend file. Open it, and now my model will change a bit. So you see we have our new sleeves here, but the texture looks a bit broken because it is. We changed the mesh, so the texture also needs to be changed. This is the next step. And we will learn a new tool, and it is called GIMP. So now we have to start GIMP and switch to that. So welcome to GIMP, the GNU image manipulation program. This is where we can edit textures. I usually use Photoshop because I have it, but Photoshop is very expensive, so GIMP is free, and that's why I will show this tutorial in GIMP. We have our textures somewhere saved, and now we have to put them into GIMP. So I will start with my shirt texture and just move it into there. And then I will also already move my sleeves texture into there, like this. So now we have two layers, and you can make one visible and invisible, like this. So you have to figure it out a bit. It also costs practice, so definitely look at some other tutorials if you need help. These are some just some basic infos I can give you. So I will make my sleeves layer invisible so I can manipulate my shirt image. And like we did it in Blender, we also have to delete our sleeves in here. And we take the select tool, and I can zoom in a bit with Control scroll. You can zoom in and out. I will select the sleeves, and with the delete key on your keyboard, you can just delete the sleeves. So, but if you remember, we also had this bottom part here that we had to delete. But that's something you have to remember too. If you can't remember this and you want to have a clean texture and no trash left, I have a tip for you. So we will go back to Blender. There we go into edit mode. We select the whole mesh. Then we click on UV. And then export UV layout. And now you can export this file into your texture folder, and I always call it UV, really basic. And then export UV layout. So now there is a new texture or a new file in our texture folder. And this I also move into there. And you see, now we can see where our texture goes to. So if I zoom in a bit, we see that our shirt interferes a bit with our sleeve. That's something we definitely have to fix. And also, we see that these stripes are from our other texture here. But this part of our shirt, we don't need anymore. So you can delete this part. And now we also fix our shirt. Like here, I just delete like this whole line. Now it is clean. We have to do the same thing with our sleeves image. Like I make my shirt image invisible and I make the sleeves image visible. And here we have to delete our shirt because we have a new one. Just delete like everything to make your texture as clean as possible. By the way, with Control and A, you go back from the selection to all. And then we have to delete this whole part, because we already have it here. So now we have both textures visible, and we cleaned it all up. So now we can make the UV invisible. This is our basic texture. We can now export it as a PNG, and I call my first attempt test. Here you don't have to do anything, just export it. If we go back to Sims 4 Studio, we can take our texture that we just made and import it into the diffuse part. And now you see that we have a new texture. You may notice that the tone of the color is not the same. It is white, but it's not the same white. So we can make some adjustments to that. You pick the sleeves layer, go to colors, and then saturation, and you can completely scale it down. So, and we will do the same with the shirt. Colors, saturation, and completely scale it down. Like this. And now, I guess we have to make the base shirt a bit darker to match the sleeves. This we will do also in the colors part. And then brightness. Now we can make it a bit darker. I guess you can tell that I never work with GIMP. Let's just try this. Okay. Then we export our file and test it in Sims 4 Studio. Yeah, I made it a bit too dark. So you have to make some adjustment, like test it a few times, and it's not that easy. After making some adjustment, I think this is fine. So you just have to experiment a bit. Next, I want to show you how to make a different swatch in GIMP. So right now we have two layers right here, the sleeves and the shirt, but we want to make it one. So we click on the sleeves layer and then we merge down. So now we have one layer. We go to colors and then colorize to give our texture a new color. Like you have to take a look at the colors so it's not too bright, but just perfect. I think I will go with the pink or something. This. So you definitely have to take a look at some tutorials for coloring, because I use Photoshop, as I mentioned before, and there I have my own technique, and one I never used, but maybe it will look good. Let's export it as our swatch number 1. And now I will add a new swatch. Yes, it looks okay. So I put it on the first place. Then I will give it the color. So we can pick it right here. It's a nice feature of the new version of Sims 4 Studio. So you can always pick the color of your swatch right here in the advanced panel. Good. So we have the diffuse texture, but there is still the shadow, specular, and normal map missing. What we can do real quick is the specular map, because we don't want some shiny texture on it. We just click make blank, and you will notice that it will change how it looks. So right now it is how our texture also looks. Really cool. So we have the shadow and normal map left. So let's start with the shadow, because it's a bit easier. We go back into GIMP. You can, of course, save your texture so that you can work on some more colors later or so, but I will close it for now. You may remember that we saved our shadows, like for the shirt and for the sleeves. And now we have to use them. So, like with the texture before, we move our shirt shadow in here, and then we move our sleeve shadow also in here. And now we have to delete the unnecessary parts. We are now in the sleeves layer, so we of course have to keep the sleeves. So we can delete everything else but the sleeves. Like this. Control A to select all. Then we make the sleeves layer invisible and the shirt layer visible. And here we don't need the sleeves because we already have some. Now we delete them. Now we can make both layers visible and connect them. So we click the upper one and then we merge down like this. What is really important for the shadow map is that we make it with a white background. So if you just import this one into Sims 4 Studio, you will have some glitches in game, like some weird black lines and pixels, and we don't want that. So we add a new layer here. Just click OK. We bring it one down. And then we take brush with the color white. It has to be the whitest white that you can get. And then we will paint it. Just like this. Without any holds. Now we can click on File and export it. And this one I will call Shadow, because this is the finished shadow. Back in Sims 4 Studio, we can now override this old shadow. Just click Import and look for your shadow. Like this. As it was both like short sleeves, nothing changed that much, but it's still a bit. Good. Now we have the normal map left. And this may be a little tricky. For a long time, I didn't know how to do this as well, but I somehow figured it out. What you will need is the white version of your texture. So that's like normally the one you make the first, because it's always good to have a base texture. And we will open this base texture in GIMP. So this is our base texture. And now we have to resize it. We click on image and then on canvas size. We change the height to 1024. So it will be a square. And then we have to cut it off, like the top has to be cut off. So look here, we see we want this bottom part. So put it all above. And then click resize. This is now our new size. We can still see the old size, but what matters is the new size. We need a new layer again. Put it on the bottom, and then we have to paint it white. Just like this. And this picture we have to save, or we have to export. And this is where I put, where I fill my normal map folder. And I call this one bump. I don't know why, but I just started to do it like this, and now I always do it. So we export the bump. This is the part where we will learn the last tool of CC creation, and this is njob. So this is njob, and here we will create some height maps. So please move your just created bump picture into it. Hit like full screen. And this step is for me always the same. At the beginning, I always changed it a bit, but like the last few months, I always do it the same, and somehow it works perfectly. So I guess if you do it like me, it will also work for you. So just follow my steps. Click on filter. Then we have to make the diffuse map into a height map. I will put this one, the coarse detail, down, like on the edge of where it turns from gray to white. Like here. You see, this is white, this gray background. We want to have it white. And this is a bit blurry, but that's okay. So only that. You can sometimes also play with the mid detail and fine detail, but here it doesn't look good. So that's totally fine. Next, we go from height map to normal map. So press filter and then height map to normal map. And this part, I just leave it like it recommends me to do it. So I always just leave it like that and press OK. On this texture, you can now see like how it tries to make it look a little bit 3D. You can see the wrinkles. You can see that this is a bit above the background. So just to make the object look a little bit more 3D in game. So and this is what we save. I save it in my normal map folder and call it BMP. It's like bump without a U. Now we go back to GIMP. This is like the only part where I use GIMP instead of Photoshop in my own process, because I really don't know how to do it in Photoshop. So we have to move our BMP file that we just created into here. And now it's also like a routine for me. So maybe it will be a routine for you too. But When you make it the first time, when you make it the second and the third time, you will always have to look it up. So don't worry. You can write it down somewhere, or you can look this video again. I don't know. So first, we have to right-click on this layer. And we have to add an alpha channel. So that's it. We click on colors, components, and decompose. Then we change the color model from RGB to RGBA and click OK. Now we have a new window that is grayish, and we have 4 layers. And now you have to listen closely. So we click the red layer, then we press Ctrl A to select the whole image. Now we have to copy it with Ctrl C. We click into the alpha layer, click Ctrl V. You see it's now here. And then we have to anchor it, like click on the anchor symbol. Now it's here. And now we have to select the green layer, Ctrl A, Ctrl C. So we copy the green layer and we paste it into the red layer, Ctrl V, and anchor it. And we also paste the green layer into the blue, like this. So now everything is gray. We click on colors, components, and recompose. And now we can close this window, and we will see a transparent image of our bump map or normal map. In this one, we export as a PNG. So you have to change the last part into PNG and export it. Now we can import our normal map into SIMS 4 Studio. And we're almost finished. So the only thing that's left are the LODs and the categories you also have to think about. So you can do this as the last point, or you can do it now or at the beginning, like how you want to make it. So how do we make the LOD 1, 2, and 3? We have to go back into Blender with our mesh. So open the mesh file of your object. We will save the file, so we click on File, Save As. So we make a copy and save it as LOD. That's how I do it all the time. Save it. And now you're in your LOD file. So if you mess up something here, your mesh isn't gone, like, or overwritten. It's like a backup. So what I always have to do first when I'm in my LOD making process, I will go into edit mode, select everything, right click, merge vertex by distance again, like we did before, but we cleaned it up because it was dirty at the bottom. But for the LOD, it's okay. So it's very important that everything is closed. So everything is connected and there are no holes left. Then we go into this part, the modifier properties, and we add a modifier. It's called decimate. So like now here at this part. And if we move this one like really down, you see how it gets worse. Do you remember how the LOD3 looked like? It was also really edgy, like how this looks like now. So what I do, I always make it step by step. So I push it a bit down and save it. Then I go into SIMS for Studio, pick the LOD 0 and import my LOD that I just made. Then I go back to Blender, push this down a little bit more, like so it's almost the half. I save it. I go back to SIMS for Studio and I import my LOD2. Still the LOD file. And then I go to LOD3, and this is the version that looks the worst. Like you go really down, but not like too much. So it looks like this. That's not good. So it has to look okay, I guess. But I always try to make it not clip through anything. But that's not bad. So save it. And I import it. So wonderful. And last but not least, I will set the categories, the tags. So if you want to remove the tick for every swatch, just deselect it and apply to all swatches. So it will be for everything. That's the same like here. I always choose all occults and apply it to all swatches. And the rest you can do however you like how it's best for you. I always recommend though to deselect the allow for random part, so like people can decide for themselves if they want to use your CC on random people, and not everyone runs around with this shirt in game. So yeah, we can now save it and take a first look in game. Ta-da! It looks good. We have like the white version as well. So now you have made a new mesh, a new object for your game. And you can be really proud of you if you did it. You see the sleeves are not perfect. There are definitely improvements to make. But for the first mesh, I think it's a great start to learn the different techniques, to learn how to control everything, and especially to learn what to do. Like, I don't know how long this video will be, but I'm sitting here for a long time recording it, and yeah, it just made me realize how many steps there are and of how many things you have to think of so that this comes out. And it's just like an edit where you cut off some sleeves and put some new ones on. I hope you enjoyed this video. So if you made it, please tag me somewhere on social media and post your stuff that you made. You can take different sleeves and put them onto this base shirt. You can also take another base shirt and put some sleeves on there. So just be creative and just try something. Try it more than one time, because every time you'll make it, you will learn something new. Like every time I make something, like right now, I will still learn something new. And this is why I want to make these tutorials, so I can help other people not to struggle that much, because I know how long it took me to figure it out, how to make CC and how to make like simple things like this. Like I started with it some years ago and I gave up because I couldn't figure it out. And then someday I tried it again and it worked. And it's really great. So yeah, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to my channel and maybe join my Discord. I will link it also in the description. so that we can talk about the stuff. And if you need some help, I can give you some private lessons or something like this. We can talk about it and I can show you some things like individually. So yeah, I have nothing more to say, but bye bye.